First off, let me introduce myself. My name is Lisa Rubey. I am the program director for the New Braunfels Community Emergency Response Program, NBCERT. I am a Master Cert instructor. I am a SARTEC 2. We have a NASAR search and rescue group that we'll talk about today. I'm a SAR instructor and lead evaluator. So my credentials, I'm also the planning section chief for the City of New Braunfels Emergency Operating Center when we're up and operating. So I have quite a bit of extensive time spent in emergency management and response. So I love to come and talk about our program because I say we're the best CERT program in the land. And I mean it because we've got great volunteers, but I just am grateful to be able to talk to you all today. So please, like I said, if you have questions, shout out my name and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Except I can't get my screen to advance. There we go. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. All right, so CERT. A lot of people are not familiar with what CERT is. CERT is a program that actually started in California. California firefighters realized that after earthquakes, they needed help and community members to help. The response time was a lot longer and people needed to know how to respond and take care of themselves. So they started these neighborhood CERT teams that after the earthquake, they would go out of their homes or offices and look to see if there were people that needed help. And then they gave them some basic training in order to do that. And Department of Homeland Security and FEMA went, wow, that's a really great program. We should do this nationally. And so FEMA is the sponsor of the national program. So we're all volunteering. And they decided to create and implement a basic training so that everybody who goes through CERT in the entire United States takes the same basic training. And then CERT teams are sponsored locally. So then however they arrange their program and team is really based on their sponsor. So we're sponsored by the City of New Braunfels Fire Department and the Office of Emergency Management. Andy Cardiel is my boss, the leader of our program. All of our teams are managed by our CERT program manager, me, and our leadership team. We have a quite extensive leadership team that you'll see who really decide and how we can service the community to better help in response to emergency, but also in preparing for emergencies. So this is our CERT program structure. We're all about it today so that you'll get to hear what each branch does in retrospect. So again, Office of Emergency Management is ahead of me. I'm the program director. We have a CERT foundation, which we'll also talk about. The city does sponsor us. However, they can't fund all of our needs. And the CERT team has lots of needs for lots of stuff. I'll show you some of our stuff that we have. And so we started a foundation 10 years ago when we started the program right off the bat so that we had an avenue to collect donations and to help support us financially. And we have a director's staff, and that director's staff services all these branch, but you have to have a documentation unit. We have a public information officer and we have safety officers. And then we have our branches. And our branches are our CERT branch, our medical branch, our IMT branch, our search and rescue branch, our training branch, and our logistics branch. And we're going to learn what each one of those branches does today. So underneath, I kind of have a little bit of what we do and how we use those branches. So today, I'm actually at a vaccine clinic. We are deployed to all of the vaccine clinics that Comal County is hosting in the Civic Center. And two of our branches are actually working together, our CERT branch and our incident management branch. So it's kind of a great way for us to organize all the stuff that we do. But the CERT program, we have a mission statement and a vision statement. We are a pretty well organized team. So basically our mission is to ensure a resilient community by training, educating, equipping, and responding. So we like to go out and train members. We offer a CERT course. The basic course that I was telling you about, that's a national program. We usually offer that 3 times a year. It's free. Anybody can take the course. You do not have to join the team to take the course, but we encourage everybody to take it because of the responsibilities that you learn. You learn medical operations, you learn light search and rescue, you learn disaster psychology, you learn a little bit about terrorism and response, and you learn a little bit about fire safety, and we get to go out and play with fire extinguishers. And most people don't think about it, but I never used a fire extinguisher in my entire life till I took a CERT class, because I was never put in a position where I had to, and I'm grateful. But you know, learning how to use it. So now that if I had to use it in the future, I would be much more confident in what I was doing. 24 hours is that basic training course. We do it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And on Sunday, you end with a disaster drill where we actually moulage people with medical makeup for injuries, and you've learned how to treat during the course. And then you guys get to come out, respond, and treat those injuries and evacuate those patients. We also provide advanced training. So I just was telling that we trained all weekend long. We had classes all weekend long. So in our medical branch, I'll tell you what we did from that. So that is for our program. And each of those programs, or each one of these branches, has their own set. So my job is volunteer management, response management, handling the calendar and the scheduling, the training management, the policies, the SOGs, all reports. There are actually national reports and state reports that the program's directors for CERT have to do. And then public outreach like this, coming out and telling people about the CERT program. Since 2010, and this has actually grown because that was a year ago, and we've been very responsive during COVID. So we actually have probably got well over 40,000 hours worth of volunteer time within the community, which is a lot of volunteer time. If you put that in dollars, if you figure volunteers are worth about $27 an hour, that's a lot of hours. So our director's staff, our head is Vicki Adams, and she handles all of our public information stuff also. So she's our PIO officer. We have a documentation unit leader, which is our good friend Janice, and she comes in and helps me manage documents and keep things together. And then a safety officer is involved for all of the safety for all of our events, because safety is always number one. We do our public, we have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, an Instagram account, and if you have those things, I would highly you follow the New Braunfels Community Emergency Response Team, because we do put out things. We put out things when weather is coming. We put out national spotter trainings and things like that. We also share how to prepare. We also share what we're doing. So it's a good resource to look at what's going on.
Hey, Lisa, Tammy asked, where are you located?
So we are located in New Braunfels, but we are the CERT team for Comal County also. So we can respond anywhere. I have an office in the city hall in the fire department admin offices. So and we train, they give us the facility for free. So we train in city hall where we have our classroom management. They let us use other buildings to train in. So it's mainly done there. That's a good question. Thanks for asking. The CERT branch is our branch that does all of our public service events, our shelter, our damage assessment that we do in New Braunfels. The CERT team is responsible for setting up shelters if we need to have them for a storm or for flash flooding issues. Our Red Cross here doesn't have a lot of volunteers yet in this area. So the CERT team goes in and sets up the shelter and mans it for the first 24, 48, maybe 72 hours until Red Cross can come in with volunteers from other areas to help us. We also do point-to-point shelter. Comal County is a point-to-point shelter for 4 counties on the coast that if they have to hurricane evacuate, they come here, and we need to set up a longer term shelter, which can be anywhere from a week to 10 days if they're not able to get back home to their community. So sheltering is a big part of the CERT branch operation that we do. Damage assessment is something that we also do with the city of New Braunfels or other events. When Wimberley had their flood, our CERT team did the initial damage assessment for the city of Wimberley, because their program was hit by the flood. So they didn't have people who could respond. So we can go to other communities when they need help. We try and make sure that our public outreach is interactive with the community we serve. We do things like Hops and Kids, and we try and bring fun games and play things with them where they're also learning some emergency preparedness or answering questions on what to do in case of an emergency. So we have a lot of fun doing things like that. So that's kind of what our CERT branch does. These are some of the things, as I just talked about, that we had done. We also do moulage, which is medical makeup. And that's actually moved to under the training branch, but we help other first responders train. So we provide, we become the role players for them in a scenario. The middle picture with the police officer was an active shooter training that the sheriff, the fire department, and the New Braunfels Police Department were doing together. And we provided people with medical makeup to make that scene more real for their training. So we help them all in that department. Our medical branch was training all weekend long. We do first aid at events. So we do first aid at Wine and Sanger Fest. We do first aid at Green Wine and Music Festival. We do first aid for Dia de los Muertos. People can contact us to do first aid for private events. And if we can put it in our schedule, we will try and do that. But we are learning basic first aid. So we also, this weekend, we did basic life support, AED, CPR, Narcan, EpiPen, stop the bleed, and bloodborne pathogens, all in a 2-day training cycle. So we try and make sure that our services are professional and that we know what we're doing. So our goal is to be trusted and professional. And so these are some of the first aid events that we did. We've helped Canyon High School, had a teen CERT program. We helped them at football games provide first aid. We've done runs where Santa was there. So we are very active in the community for helping to provide first aid. And the city loves that because they know that they have trained first aid people at an event like Wine and Sanger Fest, and then they don't have to pay firefighters overtime, but the firefighters and us work really well together. So we know when we need to call them and get them in there, and it gives them a little bit of a break from that kind of stuff. The incident management support branch is an interesting branch. And this is for all those people who love planning. I'm a planner. So incident management is something that is used by FEMA nationally for how to manage an emergency situation. Everybody uses it in some sort. Police use it in some sort. Fire use it in some sort. But when you walk into an emergency operating center, they're using some sort of an incident management structure. And that generally means you have a planning section, an operations section, a logistics section, finance section, and an incident commander who's in control. So we support emergency operations. And this branch has special training that we need to do. FEMA has independent study programs that anybody can take. If you guys haven't done that, I would highly recommend that you look up a FEMA independent study. There are lots of things that you can do and register to learn more things independently through FEMA's website. But they have incident command system classes, 100, 200, 700, 800. And those are trainings that teach you how to work within an actual incident. And then there's advanced training. So our incident management branch writes incident action plans, which are required by FEMA if you're going to be doing FEMA reimbursement, but it's an emergency plan. So when a city puts on a festival, they usually have an incident action plan behind it, which means if there is an emergency, this is what we're going to do. This is our medical evacuation routes. This is where a helicopter would land if we need helicopter support. And so our team writes those programs for the city when they need it, those incident action plans. And they support events. So if our search and rescue team goes out, our incident support team and incident management team comes out and actually helps run that search and rescue for search and rescue team. We've had all kinds of incident management responses. We've done a lot with COVID. The Emergency Operating Center for both Comal County and the city of New Braunfels were each open for over 50 days in the very beginning of COVID, monitoring the situation. We've also done a joint operation with Comal County and the city of New Braunfels, establishing nursing home PP&E when we were going first through COVID and we were having nursing home shortages for PP&E, and that was a very important group to make sure they got that personal protection equipment for. So our incident management team can be self-contained and deployed to a field, or it can actually respond to the emergency operating center. So does anybody have any questions? It's very interesting. You'd be really surprised the people who actually say, wow, I like working in the emergency operating center. So the CERT team comes in and we help the city with that emergency operations center. This is the fun branch. This is the branch everybody wants to get involved with, but New Braunfels CERT does have a National Association of Search and Rescue wilderness team. So we do wilderness search. Not urban, like collapsed buildings, something that you would see if there was something. We don't do those kind of searches, but if you're lost in the woods or lost in the park, we're going to come try to find you. This has been a fun branch for us. It's been a new branch for us. And as most things that we do for the CERT team, we also then train our own trainers. So we became a search and rescue team. Well, then we knew we would need to continue to train more members for the search and rescue team. So we sent people to be trainers and become instructors for NASAR. So if you have any type of interest in search and rescue, we have an organization that you can join. And we've been called. Search and rescue is one of those things where you could go 3 years without getting a phone call because nobody gets lost. And then all of a sudden you have a couple of them in a row. But we've done recovery operations for people. We've done evidence searches with the city of New Braunfels. There was a crime scene, a rather large wooded area that we needed to actually be on our hands and knees searching for evidence. That was a long couple of days, but you would be surprised. It was a 5-year-old murder crime and we had actually found evidence. So that was interesting. And we also do public outreach for that. There's programs that NASAR offers. Hug a Tree is a program for kids. It teaches them if they get lost to stop and stay in place because you don't want them to be continuing wandering where they're either going deeper into the field or where you're just chasing them in a circle. So we'd have the ability to do those kind of searches too. Our search and rescue branch, because it's additional training, our CERT team meets monthly on the second Tuesday of every month from 6:30 to 8:30 to train. But the search and rescue branch meets the second Saturday on top of that. So it's a bigger commitment for volunteers. And everybody in the CERT program, including myself, who runs the entire program, is a volunteer. It's a bigger commitment. And we train on Saturdays because it's a different set of skills. We have to learn to tie knots and we have to go out in the field and we have to medically package people better so that we can transport them. So that's our search and rescue branch. Our training branch takes care of us. They train our team. They are so important because we have a lot of technical training. So our training branch put together all these presentations. They went and learned all the information and gathered the resources and made us a whole training on Narcan so that at festivals, if we needed to administer Narcan, we knew how and when and why and that type of information. So our training branch is constantly busy trying to define training for us. We've brought in trainers for this example. We had a human traffic who was an expert in human trafficking come in and train us on how to see signs and symptoms of human trafficking. We do, of course, CERT training also, which would be how do you search a house after an event, or how do you crib to remove something from somebody. Cribbing is a thing where if something heavy, a bookshelf falls on you, that you can learn how to crib so you can lift that bookshelf off somebody in order to pull them out and then provide the medical treatment. So we teach all those kind of skills. A lot of different levels of training. We're doing a civilian response to active shooter event training in June. We're bringing in the police department to do that. We've brought in how to look for evidence training. So we try and keep things, stop the bleed training. We have our own Stop the Bleed instructors. So if somebody wanted to have a Stop the Bleed course for their church or for their library or something, we can come in and train Stop the Bleed. So that's part of our training branch. We are blessed that we have lots of people who wanted to be CERT instructors. So we have lots of good CERT instructors, and we like going out in the community and sharing how to train. So this is Mary Lieberman is involved with our training, and she has to train in all our different areas that we do. So if we're working in emergency operating center, we might have some training for that. If we're search and rescue, we might have some training for that. If we're learning how to create incident action plans, we do shelter drills so that we learn how to set up a shelter so that when the time has come, we all know how to do it. So it's a busy branch. Like I said, we train monthly. We have CERT training and SAR training. So there's lots of opportunities to learn within the CERT program. And a logistics branch takes care of our stuff. As I said, the CERT team likes to have stuff. So we have a lot of items that need to be maintained. We have 3 CERT trailers filled with emergency and training gear that needs to be maintained. We have radios that we need to have maintained and programs. We have computers. We have moulage equipment, which is the medical makeup equipment that needs to be maintained and replaced. Tables, banners, everything that we have, somebody has to help take care of because everything needs maintenance. We even got to the point where we had so much stuff that we had to find somebody who would let us store in their self-storage units for free because we couldn't afford the monthly fee with our foundation. But we did find a group in New Braunfels, a place in New Braunfels that was happy to share for the emergency response team. So that was really nice of them because we have wheelchairs in there so that if we have a shelter and somebody comes and they need a wheelchair, we're actually using the wheelchairs here at the vaccine clinic because we have people who come in who need wheelchairs. So we have equipment, and it takes a lot of people to take care of equipment. And we like our stuff. I've got bags, 100 bags that the state sent us right before COVID so we could hand them out to people to train with when our classes, and then we had to cancel all our classes because of COVID. So we're really looking forward to the time when we can get back and have classes in person again, which we're moving towards, because training that community and giving them the skills so how to take care of themselves is a very large part of our mission. So that's why we want everybody, if you can take a CERT class, to take a CERT class. Our foundation, we couldn't do anything without them. This command trailer that we have here in the middle and where you see the computers, that's inside. It has 4 television sets. It's got ham radios, and we take that out to searches. We take that out to community events so that if anything happens, there is an incident command center set up and ready to go. We use it to track for our searches. We have computer software that puts up where we make maps where we can tell how we've searched. We can track our personnel, where personnel is. We can track weather. So if weather is coming in and we know we need to bring people out. So that was a really large grant that our foundation had to write for in order for us to get this mobile command center. And so we definitely are grateful to have the foundation that's there to help support us get this. We actually just talked to our foundation grant writer. Stop the Bleed has a grant coming up where you're going to they're going to give $1,000 Stop the Bleed kit away for this grant. And so I'm like, we need to jump on this and write that, because having those Stop the Bleed trainer kits helps us go out in the public and teach more Stop the Bleed, which is emergency stopping the bleed, which is a great service for us to do to the community also. So our foundation has its own structure. It is a 501c3 public charity registered with the state and national program. And we have our different structure than the program because it has its own board of directors that can decide where the money goes. I don't get to just decide that, because I'd just buy all kinds of stuff, like a helicopter would be cool, you know, who would want a helicopter? And then they say, Lisa, we can't maintain a helicopter. I'm like, oh, drats, okay. So I'm not allowed to decide, because I'm the program director, but the foundation board is great. They sponsored all kinds of things. They actually helped the fire department get a drone. We do drone operations under our search and rescue team, and the fire department had somebody who wanted to donate money so they could get a drone at the fire department, but anyway, to the CERT Foundation, and the CERT purchased the drone for the fire department. So there's a lot of great things that our foundation does for us. We just did an Easter egg hunt. We went and hid Easter eggs in front yards that people for a fundraiser. So we do fundraising through that arm, and it's a great outreach. We've also had, we've donated money to the Humane Society after we did a shelter operation for a point-to-point hurricane evacuation. The Humane Society came in and helped us manage the pet issues that we were having, because many people, of course, evacuated with their pets, and we weren't quite prepared for that. So then in turn, the foundation donated to the Humane Society in kind for all of the support that they gave for emergency operations. So we can donate to other emergency functions if we have the funds to be able to do that too. And there's our beautiful command trailer, and that we were able to get. And we have purchased our radios, our GPS units, funded for insurance. We have done training scholarships for people. Our big command trailer was our big one that we've done. So we really enjoy it. But most of all, and I love to say this the best, that most of all, NBCERT is a dedicated group of professional volunteers that ensure a resilient community by training, equipping, educating, and responding. And I call it our CERT family because, well, recently we've been together quite a bit because of the snow emergency that we had, plus all the vaccine clinics that we're doing. So on top of all of our training, we're still responding. And so they're just people who really want to be there to help their community get over a bad spot, or to be there to help prepare people, or to be there to share their passion for disaster preparedness. So that is a big part of our mission also. So these are things that we've done, gone out into the community, different trainings that we've had, just some pictures of us in action. So it's volunteers who are training to respond, all experiences and backgrounds. And I like to specifically highlight this about New Braunfels CERT. There's a job for everybody. I currently have an 88-year-old woman out in the vaccine clinic who is an observation host and talking to people as they're sitting for their 15 minutes of wait time, because she loves to talk to people. So that's a great job for her to be at. I've had teens join. We let teens as young as 13 join if they join with their parents, and after 16, if they can drive and their parents say it's okay, then they can join on their own. And there's jobs for them. They work radio for us at event. There's jobs that we call scribe. We have to write down things. So we are very supportive of families joining together. Children really need to be a part of disaster response, because we forget they're affected by the disasters too. And so if they learn how to prepare and how to feel and how to help manage that, it gives them tools. High school students go through, and one of my favorite stories is high school student went through the program, went off to college. There was a fire. He knew, because he had looked for it, because he had been talking about preparedness he knew where the fire extinguisher was and got the fire put out before it got too big. And he said, I wouldn't have been able to do that except I had gone through the CERT class and I thought about it. So that's those are the kind of stories that make us go, yeah, that's why we do this training. But we have a lot of fun together. We're a great group of people. So we all work together. We call it Preparing Today for Tomorrow's Disasters. We provide that training to provide expedient services for people in distress in SAR. We provide education. We provide medical assistance within our scope and practice. None of us is, well, I shouldn't say that. We have doctors who are on our program. So we do have, and we have EMTs and paramedics who are CERT responders also. So we do have those trained people. And we are an award-winning CERT team. We've had instructors of the year for Alamo area, new instructors, CERT members of the year, program manager of the year. We have presidential volunteer service awards. And currently we are up for a national award. Don't know if we'll win it. We have a national conference in July, but we'll see, but we're up for a national award. And we also are a nationally recognized CERT team. I'm the training committee chair for the National CERT Association. So there is a National CERT Association. And within that part of my working with NBCERT, I am speaking at the National Convention. I've spoken at the Texas Department of Emergency Management Convention in San Antonio. So we have a lot of opportunities for growth and expanse and doing fun things if you want to join. But like I said, most of all, we have fun. We goof around, we learn, we support each other, we call each other. We're a real big, happy family, because when you respond in emergency situations and training situations, you really get to know the people that you're working with. And I can't tell you from being the program director side of it, how absolutely I am amazed every day by the people who want to volunteer to help their community. To run the vaccine clinic takes about 37 people a day for managers, and more than half of those people are members who take off work so they can come work a vaccine clinic. Some of them are retired and have been to all 19 clinics that we've done and are continued to sign up through June. So they are just an amazing group of people, and they all want to be there to help serve the community so that the community can learn to respond for themselves or help themselves, or they can be there in case you get that bee sting at Wine and Sanger Fest and you're like, oh, what do I do? We'll help you. If you need more emergent care, we'll help you get that. We'll help you train. So it's a very helpful group of people. So that is basically the New Braunfels CERT team in a nutshell, and all of the different jobs that we do and we're capable to do. We're very blessed that we have a very supportive structure from the City of New Braunfels Office of Emergency Management and Fire Department and city managers. They all have a great faith in our team because they know how we train and how we interact with the community. So that is a blessing for us, because all CERT teams do have to have a sponsor. It either has to be a sheriff's office or a fire department or something in there. In order for you to be FEMA's registered, you do need to have an Office of Emergency Management, some sort of a sponsor who will say, yes, I support this team. And so having a supportive sponsor really makes your team a lot better. Ours has grown. The CERT team has been here for 10 years, which is a big, long dedication. Some of our original volunteers that started 10 years ago are still here. I started in 2013. So I've been here 6-7 years. So we have a pretty long history in New Braunfels of being here supporting the community. Contact information, if anybody wants further information, if you want to schedule a Stop the Bleed class, if you want to know how to donate to the foundation, if you want to know anything about emergency management, how do you get involved, would love to help you. If you want to start your own CERT program in Bulverde, we can help you do that also. We are very good at sharing information. As I said, I'm the National Training Committee Chair, and CERT groups in general all over the United States, and it is a worldwide program now. We actually have CERT in Chile, we have CERT in Puerto Rico, they're starting some training in CERTs in China. So there are international groups too. But we're all great with sharing information. Everybody's like, oh, you need to write standard operating guides? We've done that. Look at these. See how you can use that information, because it's important for us to be a community. So that's basically my presentation. Does anybody have questions for me? Because I'd love to answer questions.
How fast is the response time usually if you have some, like a hurricane or something?
So for some events, if we're opening the emergency operating center, we get a phone call and we're there within 20 minutes. A search and rescue, our first team should hopefully be there within 20 minutes of getting the call. So it can be quick. If it's a planned event, obviously, we have like vaccine clinics. We all know we just show up here at this planned time. But in general, in an emergency for like a search, we could have an entire team there in an hour.
Okay.
And so we usually send our first people out to start getting the information while the rest of the team is gathering in. So depending on where the location is, we can get there fairly quickly.
So is it just the New Braunfels area that you all service, or?
No, we will go into anywhere into Comal County. Jeff Kelly is the Comal County Emergency Manager. If he has a need in the county that he can't fill, he can call the CERT team and see if we can respond to that, and we will go out and try and respond. That would take a little bit longer. If we had to go all the way out to Bulverde, it would be a longer response time, but it depends on what the jobs are too. So for example, during the freeze, the big disastrous snowstorm that threw us all for a loop, we went out into Canyon Lake area to help them distribute water, because Comal County Emergency Manager asked if we could come out to that area. So we were doing water distribution in New Braunfels with the city, and we were also then helping in water distribution. So they can send us out for those kind of events if they would like. And and opening shelters. If Bulverde needed a shelter for some reason and Red Cross couldn't get there, they could call our team and we could come out there and open a shelter. That's a good question. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. How would Bulverde get a CERT, like a team, or start a CERT program? Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh,
Sorry,
Lisa, I think you're muted.
I muted myself because I had a tickle and a cough, sorry. So basically, if Bulverde has a city emergency manager, that would be the first person you could go to and talk and say, hey, I would like to talk to you about starting. Maybe a fire chief is another. A lot of CERTs are under fires. Some are under police departments, so a police department. Or you could actually contact Jeff Kelly, Comal County's emergency manager, and say, hey, we're interested in looking at how to start a CERT team in Bulverde. Lisa said she'd tell us how to do it. and see if they can help you find a sponsor, or if Jeff would be the sponsor, because I know that he's looking at having outreach farther away, because it is hard for New Braunfels to get.
Yeah, Comal County is rather large.
It is a large county. And so it would be beneficial for larger communities like Bulverde and Garden Ridge and areas like that to have a team in their own community, because you're going to respond to your community first. And not all CERT teams do all the stuff that New Braunfels CERT team does. It took us 10 years to evolve into the programs that we have. Your basic CERTs, a lot of programs help, and again, respond in emergency for emergency managers into operating centers. And maybe you don't run the planning section, but you're a scribe for a fire chief who's talking on the phone and sending places, and you're like, okay, fire chief just said he's sending engine 3 24/7. And you would write that down so that somebody else would post that information, or doing computer work. And as you get trained and as that trust gets built, then maybe they say, hey, would you like to become a resource unit leader? And you say, yeah, that sounds like fun. I'd love to go to class. And you can learn to do that. A lot of certs do firefighter rehab. So if they have a large fire, the CERT team responds and provides the juice and bananas and granola bars and helps the firefighter sit for 20 minutes, get his gear off, check his blood pressure, making sure he's okay to keep responding, and help them get back to fight the fire. So they do a lot of them do firefighter rehab as a big CERT mission. So there's a lots of different disaster preparedness, just going out into the community and having a booth at a Cops and Kids or a festival to just say, hey, let's talk about disaster preparedness within your community. You know, a lot of people didn't fill up their bathtubs with water when this big winter storm hit. And, you know, we teach, hey, if something's coming, go fill up all your bathtubs with water, because you never know what's going to happen. And I will tell you, I was one of those people who didn't do it. I was like, I'm from Wisconsin. I can handle the snow. It's not going to be that bad. Not thinking that my pipes were going to freeze. So then I was out there shoveling snow into the bathtubs because I'm like, oh, we need water. But pipes don't freeze like that in Wisconsin when it's 35 below. So I was like, but pipes aren't going to freeze. Even though I teach that, my little brain said, no, it wasn't going to happen. So sometimes you say, do as I do, do as I say, not as I do. So we, you know, just teaching people community preparedness, stuff like that. And sharing with them, you know, do you have a go bag so that if you had to evacuate your home quickly, what do you have that you need to take with you? Do you have an extra set of medications in there? Do you have water? Do you have food? Do you have your documents? You know, or, you know, I tell everybody, put your documents, put your credit card information, put that stuff on a secured thumb drive that has a password, put your insurance papers, put your copies of your passports, all those documents that if your house burned, you grab that go bag as you're leaving the house and you've got all that information for you that you can go to the public library and get on a computer and print and say, okay, here's my contact numbers for my insurance, because you want to have that with you. So there's things like that, or do that and mail it to a family member who's trusted not to steal your personal information and credit cards and buy stuff, you know, or we'll lose it. So, you know, those kind of preparedness things, just sharing that information in the community of things that you've learned about preparing around your house, you know, fire mitigation. I live out in Canyon Lake. We bought our house 2 years ago and the trees were all overgrown right around the property. And so we immediately started mitigating that. So in case there was a wildland fire, it's backed away from our house a way lot better than it was. We still have a lot to go, but you know, we started doing that. So those types of things, just being at city festivals, you know, to help respond. We would respond to whatever the city throws at us, to do first aid, to train and do first aid. If the city says, hey, yeah, you know what, it'd be really great to have a CERT team. You could actually train to be crowd managers. We do help with crowd management. So if you have outdoor festivals, after a couple thousand people, you have to have so many crowd managers per people. So our team trains to be crowd managers so we can help the police department if there is ever an incident at the event, and we can help do that. Directing traffic at parades. There's lots of things that CERT teams can do as volunteers. So I highly recommend, if it's something that you have some like-minded people who would love to get started, that you do look into that kind of a program for your community. Because like I said, if you can get into a good relationship with a sponsor like us that we have with Office of Emergency Management, our fire department, and then grow that,
Mhm.
We've grown it all the way to the city manager, to, they all trust the CERT team. So,
Yeah.
and it's a fun thing. I mean, we like it. It's fun to go do first aid at a festival and help somebody who needs help, and
Mhm.
that's a good thing. And we've had things where we've had to call ambulances to things where we give them a Band-Aid and put some ice on it and take your bee sting and you're okay. Watch them for a few minutes, make sure they're not having any sort of reaction, and send them back on their way to the festival.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a good thing to do.
It is.
Yeah, if you've got your like a vehicle, like when it snowed a whole bunch, there's not a lot of vehicles that could go out. You all have like an all-terrain vehicle or anything like that?
We do not. Vehicles, when you are maintenance, which is money.
No.
So if we have our command trailer that the emergency manager pulls with his vehicle, because for the CERT team, we're looking at how could we get a vehicle to pull that so CERT members don't have to use their personal vehicle. And to purchase a vehicle, to have the insurance, to have it becomes really expensive.
Mhm.
And maintenance, gas, who's
Yeah.
going to drive it? Does it sit? Does it drive? So we try and stay away from vehicles, and then we just try and say to the fire department, we need the command trailer here. And if it's a real emergency, like a search, then one of the team members will use their personal truck and take it out there. Because we won't wait. If we need it because of a search, we will go get it out there. But if the city can help us move it, we would do that.
I see.
But yeah, vehicles are expensive. They cost money.
Mhm.
So what other questions do you got? This is great.
Well, Tammy, I was just wondering, I guess like the process, Tammy, Lisa. So say a child goes missing at a community park in New Braunfels or Bulverde or whatever. Obviously, they would call the police. Would that be who would call you guys out there? I'm guessing, or
Yes, that is. So a search always starts with local law enforcement. Even if somebody called our search team directly, the first question I would ask is, have you called your local law enforcement? Because they have all the authority, and they can check credit cards and do some things. And so what happens then is that law enforcement will go out there and go, okay, yeah, this is really a person missing. Then they have to decide how the response is going to come. So are they going to just try and respond with officers? Or are they going to respond with this? Or are they going to call in the search and rescue team? And so that's usually how that happens. Then law enforcement calls our emergency manager and says, I need your search team out here. And then we go. Or like for the evidence search, it wasn't a emergency. So they called the emergency manager and said, hey, tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, can we have the search team come out and do an evidence search? And so that was that was easy because that gave us more time. Because again, we're all volunteers. So the search team is a little bit different because if there is an emergent response, people will leave work and they have kind of let their employers know, hey, this is a search, I got to go. And a lot of them have support for that, but some of them can't. One guy's a teacher. He can't just get up and leave because we got called for a search. He just can't leave his students. So you have to have a little bit of flexibility there because you never know when it's going to happen. And it could be in the dead of night. We got called during the dead of night to go out for a search at 4 o'clock. Or at 6 o'clock the next morning. We were coming in as the second shift. They already had a search team out there with dogs from San Antonio. We were coming in at the second shift. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, they called us and called us off as we were all getting dressed and ready. So that happens too. Because they found them, which was good because we always want them to be found.
Definitely.
So any other good questions? If not, I think I've given you all I can about the background of the team. Like I said, we'd like to share who we are. As I saw somebody say, hey, I didn't know. And a lot of people don't know. I tell everybody we're the best kept secret. because they see us out about, but they really don't understand what all we do. So I appreciate opportunities like this to share with community members. And I would hope now that you would go share and tell somebody else that, hey, there's this CERT team. And if you see that we're doing a CERT training and you want to come take the class, because I think we're going to do one in August. We're shooting to have an in-person class in August. I'll make sure that Bethany gets the flyer for it.
Great.
And that's free and open to anybody. Now we have to cut it off at a certain amount of people just because we can't. It's hard to do a disaster drill if you have 100 people because you just can't make a drill that big. So we usually have a classroom about 30 people. So we can do the drill at the end. Our biggest class, I think we had 45 once, and that was huge because you have to have so many more victims for people to do. And we actually had to go to the hospital and say, hey, do you have a wing we can use? And they did. And then we actually tied it in, and our victims, we triaged them, and then we pretended to transport them to the emergency room. And then the emergency room got training on getting flooded by a mass casualty incident. So we are able to do those kind of things too. But if y'all decide, hey, I really want to look at starting a CERT team, I would recommend emailing Jeff Kelly or talking to your local fire department and emergency manager and police chief and see if they're interested in sponsoring a program. Thank you all.